And the Living the Pug Life show, brought to you by Pug Parties, because your pug deserves to be the best dressed pug at the party. I'm your host, Donna, and my co-host tonight, who you can't actually see because she's decided to rest her chin against the desk, is Rosie. Tonight, I am super excited to introduce our awesome guest, Rachael, from Fabulous Beast Portraits. And you would also know her as Pug Mum to beautiful Agatha, who was our first guest back on episode 6. Who can believe that it's actually been that many episodes since then? So my greatest regret with my first Pug Louis, a.k.a. Fatdog, is that photos of him are rare and usually out of focus. Luckily, I found Rachael, who can make portrait lemonade from lemon photos. Rachael creates magic for fur parents looking to capture a memory of their fur child forever. And she's kindly agreed to give us a sneak peek behind the scenes of what it takes for an artist to recreate a portrait of our precious puggies who are nothing but angels in our eyes. So please get your questions ready for Rachael, as she's more than happy to answer any that you have about pet portraiture when she joins myself and Rosie tonight to talk all things pet portraits. So hello, yay, as it's all coming through, yay.
Hello.
Hello.
I get used to the camera, so my hand's always in the wrong place. But hello.
It's always the worst thing when you're not 100% sure. So it's so wonderful. And for everyone who's watching, hello to Melissa Kay and Sam Reed, who's watching us via our I was going to say Pug Parties, but that's wrong. LIVIN, the Pug Life Facebook group as well. Hi guys, how you going? I know that the private Facebook group doesn't actually pop up immediately into the stream, but the software has the software that we use to stream has a new what do they call it? A new gadget, a new very technical term for a thingy that basically pops up people's comments as they're popping through up onto the screen, which is wonderful. So as you can see, currently Kim's actually talking about what the great pictures are, which is really wonderful. So hello to I do want to pop up this one. Hello to Jacinta and Opie.
And hello, Opie. Oops, again.
Opie, you're so beautiful, and if I remember correctly, do I dare say it? We will be talking to both of them in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll actually get to meet Opie proper, which is just wonderful. As always, Snuffles and Kisses to Kim and Tonka. Such a beautiful little cutie. Hello to Elvie. And for those of you who watched the interview that I did with Patrick Ford, and his amazing first book or first child's book called The Great Adventures of Louis and Zucchi, I noticed today that Patrick has reached out to Elvie and asked if he can name, so he has decided to use in book 3, Minnie as the namesake of one of the key characters for what is going to be book 3, which is absolutely wonderful. So I cannot wait for that book to come out so I can see our very own Minnie as a character in the book. It's just going to be absolutely awesome. Hello to Lynn, and hello. Oh, and she says hello to Aggie's mum. Thank you. Oh, Pug Evening. I do like that. Pug Evening.
Yeah, that's everybody. A good one.
That is actually a really good one.
I'm going to steal that.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. Lynn says she apologises for spelling your name wrong, Rachel. That's
everyone
fine.
does.
We all have those problems. Joe says hello. We were just talking about you and Willow just beforehand, and how exciting it is that that Willow's, do we dare say it? I'm assuming Steve can't hear. Willow's portrait is coming soon, which is absolutely awesome. And Kim's actually having a wave to Rachael too, so we'll go that way as well. So tonight's a little bit different to what we normally do, in that obviously everybody knows Rachael as Agatha's mum, but she's also an amazing portrait. How do you portraiture?
I just say portrait artist.
Painter.
General all-round.
Yes, general all-round amazing. So, and I wonder, so if everybody saw the reminder poster today on Facebook or on Instagram, you would have actually seen the portrait that Rachael did of Winston, which Rachael kindly painted for us a few months after we lost Winston last year, and Andrew and I were just over the moon with what Rachael did. And especially because we wanted a specific picture, we wanted a specific look, and it was one of the last pictures that Andrew and I had taken of Winston before he passed, and so that picture was quite special to us. And Rachael kindly, obviously, she would normally do them smiling and looking all wonderful, but this particular one, he was fast asleep in the sun, quite happily out the back of the house. And it was just a beautiful picture. So, and I will, all transparency, Rachael is currently painting my other 3 pug portraits at the moment. And as I was saying before, Charles and Rosie, I have 1,000,001 photos of them. Fatdog, not so. So Rachael really does have to do that whole portrait lemonade from what will probably really bad lemon photos.
It will definitely not be the worst one I've ever been seen.
And we will get into that. So I've actually got a couple of preset questions that we wanted to go through which were the questions that I was asking the first time we spoke and started to work together. And then what you've also done is you've given me, what's the best way to put it? We've got a slide pack, inverted commas, to show the stages, because Rachael thought it was the best way to describe how she does it. So I think what we'll do first, before we bring that up, is I think everybody wants to know, how did you get into pet portraits?
I'll give the condensed version, because probably the long full version, there's only one night, we don't have time for. But essentially, photography has always been a hobby. Photography, I know, not portraiture. And with my old dogs, let's start again. My old dog, I only had one. He was big, but that doesn't make him multiple dogs. With my old dog, any spare time I had, I'd go out with him and my camera and photograph birds. And that progressed into, I decided to paint birds. And I also went to do an oil painting class around then to sort of, I'd done painting and things, but I hadn't really done much oil painting, and you always learn new techniques.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hone my skills in that, painting birds. And someone said, well, why don't you paint your dog? And I said, because that's hard. It's really hard. Which is usually my answer. Usually my answer to anything someone suggests is, nah, I can't do that. That's really hard. And then I go home and I stew about it for ages. So, it's too hard. I mean, I could try this, so I started doing, not actually my dog. I started doing a friend's dog, because she's fawn and that's less hard. And I'd done a bunch of black birds, and black is the hardest. Yeah. Especially because black is never black. Like, if it was, you couldn't actually see it. So I started doing that. And around the same time as that, I also started using an app on my iPad to do more cartoony type things and edits of my photos to make up t-shirts. And then one day in that, I have no idea why, watching television, eating a piece of chocolate or something, like everything came together and I went, what if I tried this program
Yes.
and the dog portrait and tried it together? And I just messed around one afternoon and went, I quite like this. And I showed it to a couple of people. You know, you start with family and go, what do you think?
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Yeah, but you're a blood relative. You're, you know, hormonally programmed to tell me that.
So, yeah, never works in my family.
But I was actually really pleased with the result. And so I got a better program because it was a very limited, you know, the sort of crayons version of a painting program.
I do like that description. That'd be the one that I'd need. And stay with you.
And I'm going, by then I'm starting to want to do the sort of things I can do when I'm painting and doing other crafts. And then I'm going, I can't do it with this stupid thing. So I found a really good quality painting app called, I've gone completely blank and I use this every day.
It'll come to you.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Cool arty thingy that I use all the time. Anyway, Procreate. It's called Procreate. And I've done a lot of other digital things just generally, you know, because I just do computer nerdy things. And found suddenly I could do the sorts of things I could do painting, but on an app, which then meant I'm not a patient person.
Yes.
So it then meant I don't have to do this bit of the painting, put it down, wait for it to dry, go back, do the next bit, wait for it to dry, mix the colours for half an hour, you know, the whole thing. I can just go, no, this is the colour I want. I'll paint that. I'm telling it it's dry now. Now I'm painting the next bit. It was so much quicker.
Yeah.
And I left out one key point, which is I had actually started trying to use the photography photos of pets as a bit of a small business. Yeah. It's a highly competitive business, and I am a good photographer.
Yes.
But I'm not an outstanding photographer. But I felt a lot better about my portraits than I did about the photography I wanted to sell.
Yeah.
And so I just turned around and went, I think I might actually
do that. Try
this instead, and started sharing it with people and found people going, I want one of those.
Yes. And
I was thinking, good, and I found people's attitude change too. I'd say, I'm going to do pet portraits. And they go, oh, that's lovely. I go, and I'm doing all of this. And they go, oh, that's really nice. And I go, here's a picture. And they go, oh,
wow,
that's good. Yes, look at the picture. The picture is good. And that's essentially how I got into it, and then started, you know, promoting it, and stripped down my photography website and chucked all. I mean, there's still a gallery of photos on there, but and changed it completely and just changed directions. And I love it. I love it.
And yeah, like the amazing photos. So probably the vast array that, or I shouldn't say photos, but obviously they were the digital photos, pictures of the actual pictures.
Yeah.
The opening video. Each of those dogs had a story. And cat, can't forget Daphne.
She's not the only cat I've done, but
who I do forget her name all the time. Obviously, I focus on Agatha, which is really bad, and Agatha probably feels like really left out all the time. The human picture was actually your first attempt at painting your grandfather.
That's the first human portrait of any kind. Oh, I used to do sketching when I was younger, and I did occasionally sketch people. But that's the first, human portrait I've tried.
Mm.
I mean, there's a lot of tracing in it as well to make sure I've got the lines right and everything.
Yeah.
but that was a real. It took me a long time, and that was a real labour of love because we found his photograph in the army archives, and it was an old black and white photo.
Yeah.
And I have to take away some credit. I did have to run it through another program I found to put some of the colour in.
Yeah.
Which did make him look a bit like Donald Trump. So then I had to run it through my own programs to soften the colours and that sort of thing. And then in the painting, again, just make his hair more the way it was at the time, which wasn't so much from my memory, because, of course, my memory, it was grey.
Yes.
But from old photos that I had seen when I was younger and checking with Mum too, picking it up and going, is this what he looked like? Did he look like this? But yeah, it was a labour of love, and I find doing it, I feel a connection to all of them. I mean, obviously, it brought me I was very close to my grandfather, very close. But he died when I was 15. But it made me feel really close to him again, like he was there, and seeing this boy, not even a young man, he was a boy, and going, gee, he was young, he was just a kid. Yes. I would have given him a pat on the head and teased him. And
he used to, obviously being retired Navy, we used to sound like, and I sound like an old woman, but when the recruits used to start, especially when I was more senior, there were times when I'd sit there and I'd turn around to one of my, I was an officer, and I'd say to one of my senior sailors, do you think their mum and dad know that they skipped out of preschool to come and play today? Like, they just, every year they looked younger and younger and younger. And then I'm like, whoa, I'm turning into one of those old people that go, move over, whippersnapper.
Yes, I'm definitely that, yeah.
So so obviously you deliberately chose digital portraits.
Yes.
So what is the difference between a digital portrait and like a oil painting or a watercolor or anything else like that? So sort of people can, just so that we're clear.
Yeah. Well, apart from the obvious difference, one is paint and one is not made of paint. Sorry.
Someone say hello.
The table just vibrated. That was surprising. I suppose the main difference is in the way you can treat it and the way you can break it down. I mean, there are some definite similarities. I don't use literally a paintbrush, but I have an Apple Pencil, and it's done on an iPad. So the pencil behaves the way a paintbrush would. And you actually do download, well, the app comes with some, but you can select the kinds of paintbrushes you want for different effects and types of paint and everything. So you actually choose a paintbrush on the app. I was going to give you a thing to show with that, but then it gets really complicated, and frankly, that's like people talking computer jargon. It's really interesting if you're doing art, and really not in. But just trust me, there's a drop-down bar. I want to do a smooth acrylic on a thin brush, and then paint with the pencil the same way I'd paint with a brush.
Yeah.
But unlike a oil or water paint or whatever, the canvas is all electronic, so I can paint it in layers. Which I do, and we'll go into that when we're talking about the details. But that means, for example, I've done an oil painting and done the whole thing, and weeks and weeks of work and everything, and then I've stood back and looked at it and gone, that is the ugliest background in the world. What was I even thinking?
Because you have to do the background first when you're painting like a real painting. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I do the background first always in a portrait as well. In a digital portrait. And I have gone back and changed those backgrounds. But whereas in a digital painting, I can just go straight to that layer and paint in the background.
Yeah.
On the oil painting, it's an extremely tedious thing where I have to go right round the edges of every tiny little bit and not mess anything up, because if I accidentally go over it, I've just screwed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sort of wipe things off up to an extent, more so with acrylic than with oil paint. If you're using watercolors, yeah, you can't change anything. Watercolors are fixed. Once you put them down, that's it.
So if you were doing, we had to do a time comparison, oil versus digital, what's the time saving?
In terms of actual how long it takes to go from the start to the end, you're probably looking at the digital painting taking at least a quarter of the time, I reckon.
Wow.
In terms of my amount of work, it's about the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, because I'm more likely to faff about on the digital one because I know I can fix it.
Yeah.
Whereas with the oil paint, I'm going to go, no, I've made a decision and that's the decision, and I can't go in there and go, maybe that would look good in gold. No, it doesn't. Maybe in silver. But because of the waiting times and the time it takes to clean things and everything else and prime it, yeah, I'd say it probably takes a quarter of the time.
Wow.
If you're going, straight from no faff, straight from start to finish.
It's a highly technical term, isn't it?
Yeah, this is an art term. Faff.
Very. Yes. Oh, wow. That means I'm arty, because I'm certain I use that term with Andrew all the time, but it's usually around housework. Stop faffing around and get the vacuum cleaner out.
Yeah. Stop sitting there being so artistic.
On YouTube. Right, well, that's actually a great segue into, now just give me a second whilst here we go. And for some reason, the video has gone to the last bit when we needed it to be at the start. Sorry, everyone, for the fact that I had to flick around a little bit. But it's actually the perfect segue into actually looking at the, so these are the 5 basic stages of creating a portrait.
Basic stages. I mean, when I do a portrait, there's normally, this makes it look like there's about 5 layers. When I actually do a portrait, there's almost never less than 10. But this is the basic stages. So this is where I start. I always start with the background. It sets the mood for the whole thing. It sets the color tone for the whole thing. So I get on there and I paint in the background. And I'll usually have an outline, I'll usually have the pet with all the background just erased around them, just so that I can center it there and see how it's going to look against the background. And that's the other thing with the digital portraiture, I can turn that off and on. So I can see it, yes, it's in the right place, then turn it off and go back to painting the background. And that's just fairly simple, just with some fairly basic, I usually use approximately the same set of brushes for that. And just to create a rough sort of coloured background. Sometimes it's waffling.
And of course, you get someone like me that wants something completely different.
But there's always someone who wants something completely different. Then I add in the background highlights, which to my way of mind are just as important as the background, the flat background. That's just your starting point. And that can be various things. I mean, you would have seen in the pictures from before, sometimes it's a sort of ripple effect or sparks or bokeh, or this one's actually a combination of bokeh and little, I call them fireflies.
I do like them.
Yeah, I love the little highlights. That's the simple version of that. That in itself is usually anywhere from 1 to 5 layers. But that's complicated stuff to do with lighting effects and special tools where I can actually put an effect paper. It's not literal paper, of course, it's digital paper. I can't stick paper in my iPad. But an effect paper on a layer and then make that layer invisible until I use the brush. And then it's like using that paper instead of paint. So, for example, let's say I had an old letter, an old-fashioned letter. I could actually put that as a layer and then use the paint to draw parts of that letter through onto the canvas. So, yeah, that's... We haven't even got off the background yet.
That's fine. Right.
Okay, then the next, and obviously the most key part of the whole thing, is I do the what I call the rough paint, but it's basically painting in the dog. I put areas where I put in the most details. I start with the eyes, and I do the eyes in as intricate detail as I can, and then the nose, if you can see the nose. With humans, of course, the first thing you see is eyes, and so that's really important, just as important with a pet, but oddly enough, not so much with humans. The next, you don't think what an important feature a nose is on an animal, but it really is, and it's such a characterful thing, I find. The only other thing just as important in the nose, which isn't on all animals, but takes a lot of work if it is, animals with their mouth open, the tongue and the teeth.
Oh, wow.
Have to also be detailed and perfect, or you just mess the whole thing
off. Oh, that is so interesting. Like, I know we're going to get to it, but you were talking about like the whiskers and the colour tone. I just assumed that they were the most important, but I do get, I mean, like, it must be, how is it painting a pug's nose then? Because, I mean, this one, I mean, at least with a dog, it's a snout, whereas obviously a pug, it's all eye and nose and snuffle rolls.
Yeah, you have to get the little snuffle rolls in, and yeah, just this little round,
the little button.
Yeah. That's the bit that's so flattering. That's really key. And if they've got their mouth open and they're doing the little,
yes.
Yeah, you've got to get that right. I did 2 Rottweilers, and one had his mouth open, and he had this big, beautiful tongue, and I must have spent 3 days just on that tongue.
Oh, wow.
And at the end, you sort of go, only animals with mouths closed from now on. No happy, smiling animals for me anymore.
Oh, what in that? Sorry, I'm trying to get my,
that was just the close-up of the, oh no, that's the second one. So yeah, you go, I think that's all the way to the end now.
Right. Oh, no, it's not on my way, or it shouldn't have
mine
been.
is.
Oh, I can see.
There we go. Step 3. That was just a close-up of step 3,
sorry,
so that you could see the detail.
Sorry, my system seems to have gotten ahead of me. So, right, we had rough paint. I'm sorry.
Rough paint, that's all right.
Right,
so
now we're back
painting the animal in.
Technology.
That was just a close-up of painting the animal in, step 3A. Step 4, that's where I start to add fur details. And depending on the animal, that can be just adding in, 1 layer of shaggy fur over the top. Some animals, if they're really thick and shaggy, it might be a couple of layers to get the depth of the fur. Pugs tend to only need usually only 1, except for Winston, thanks, because he's got because of his ticked fur, he needs at least 2 layers to get that tick colour through. But generally, pugs only need 1 layer of extra fur detail to just highlight, the little fluffy bits and their little white chins if they've got them, and all those little individual hairs.
Yes.
So then, yeah, that's the next layer I do on that, and then the next one, which is technically the last layer, that's where I go in. That includes the one, like, not hand done digital thing. There's only 1 layer that I run, that I use a program on and make a sort of just a texture effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a very transparent layer of that over the top just to create an extra depth again on top of what I've already painted. But that's at like a really low transparency. So it's just a little see-through layer. And then I go in with a pen tool. It's still my Apple pen. It's just a different thing I've selected. Yeah. And I I keep going to point to the picture, but no one can see what I'm pointing at. And put in little details. Like that's where I'll put in the little lines emphasized around the eyes, an outline usually of, I mean, if it's really fluffy, not an outline there, but like ears will usually have an outline just to enhance them. Little lights in their eyes, put their whiskers in specifically because, you know, I do that on top of the fur because they're a different texture to the fur. Little lines around collars if they've got a collar, that sort of thing. And that's essentially the last step.
Yes, and of course, unfortunately, what seems to have happened, let me see if I can pop it back in, go figure, the video has... is not streaming properly. So I've just popped it out and I'm popping it back in the hope that it'll come back up for everyone. Right. Thank you, Kim, for saying so. I hadn't actually seen it on my, because I've got my phone down here as well trying to track everything. That's
ironic because it was working. It seems to be the only person it was working for.
It was working for me, obviously. I'm so sorry, everyone, but what I will do is I'll pop the video into the chat area of the live stream at the end, so you can actually have a look at the steps yourself and see what Rachel was talking about when it was. Thanks, Kim. Kim said she can now see the step 5 puppy. This is the beautiful puppy at the end of all of Rachel's hard work.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people think you say digital portraits, and a lot of people think you take the photo, you run it through Photoshop, and send it back. And no, I mean, I might put it through Photoshop to enhance it before I start on it.
Yes.
Especially because sometimes people have a lead they want to take out, or I might need to enhance the colours a little, or sometimes make it a bit sharper and enhance the colours and put some light in because it's a dark, fuzzy, colourless photo.
Really, like you're going to get from me for Fatdog.
But yeah, there are people who do that, and if that's what you like, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's about what you like, but that's not what I do. I hand paint.
Yes.
Just in a digital medium.
Yes, and they're beautiful. Now, I did have another question that just popped up in my mind, and I've gone completely blank, so I'm sure it'll come back in a moment. So probably the big thing is points to look for when choosing an artist. What are your recommendations? So whether they're coming to you or to another artist.
Oh, thanks, Jo. I'd say there's 3 main points. This is what I would say. Firstly, and I use for myself examples of 3 impressionist painters. This is what I think of. Cézanne, who did the fruits. Monet, who everyone knows does the water lilies. And Renoir, who did all the nice ladies having coffee with big hats and that sort of thing. First question, are they good? Well, all 3 of those are good. So, yeah, you could choose any one of those. Second question is, do you like them? Well, Cézanne's a genius, but I actually really can't stand his pictures, so I wouldn't choose him. I do really like Monet and Renoir. They're beautiful. Third question, though, is just as important. If you're walking past that every single day, can you live with it every single day? And, like, for me, I couldn't look at water lilies every single day. I love Monet, but I couldn't do that. Sorry, Monet. I'd buy the Renoir. Because I can stare at that every day and go, oh, look, there's someone else over there having a chat. Oh, isn't that interesting? Look at the thing on her. Yeah. I could do that. But there is a 4th wild card question. Ooh. How does it make you feel? Because if you look at something and it makes you feel wonderful and happy or any kind of wonderful emotion like that, then it doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's a velvet Elvis painting with little sparkles on it. If it makes you feel like that, you can look at it every single day and you love it, then get the velvet Elvis. You know, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
You have to enjoy it and be able to look at it every single day, unless you keep it in like the laundry or something and don't do a lot of laundry.
Well, I mean, I can say that about the portrait that you did of Winston. I mean, Winston doesn't normally stay in my office. I have photos of all of my pugs. Our portraits have to be in the lounge room. And Rachael knows, we obviously got Winston first, and we're now getting Fatdog, Rosie and Charles done. I haven't been permitted to hang Winston in the lounge room until such time as all 4 portraits are done of all 4 of our puggies, so that they can all be hung together. So it's as much my fault as anything. I've been waiting 12 months to get all 4 so that I can have them all together. So
I'm trying to make them harmonious so they'll look good together too.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be honest, between you and me and everybody else online, Andrew's terrible at hanging pictures, and invariably I use the 3M hooks now, because otherwise it would mean I'd have to putty up a load of holes.
I always use it anyway because I change my mind all the time. Yes,
and of course Joe's just asked if I can show Winston's picture. So I'll ask you another question while I look for Winston's picture to pop it up in. Tips for choosing the reference pictures for the artist, because it is something that you said to me is incredibly important, which is why I think what you do at times, absolutely amazing.
Okay, so first tip. The animal is in the picture and looking, and you can see its face. And I'm not joking or being sarcastic. I have had someone send me a photo where the dog was like this. Oh, hang on, let me see if I can do it. Now, I'm good, but I can't do that. Oh, hang on, a square picture or the bottom picture. Okay, I can see like half the dog's head. The head was right out of shot and sideways. So I could see an ear. I'm not that good. Preferably when you look at it, because you can, I find it's one of those things you don't notice when it's your own photo and your own pet. And I was actually thinking about this after we talked about it the other day.
Yes.
I keep doing all these hand gestures and none of them are in screen. Try and make sure all of your dog's face is it, or cat or echidna, whatever you've got, all of its face is in the photo, because frequently people don't notice that part of the ear is out of shot or something like that. Now, I can fix that up to a point. But the more of it is out of shot, the harder it is for me to fill that back in again. But yeah, I mean, like if you've got a little piece of ear missing, I can fill that in. I can fix that. But so the animal's actually in the photo and preferable and looking towards camera, and you're not standing in front of it. I've had that. It's in focus.
Yes,
definitely an advantage. As I said, doesn't matter what you're sending me a Fatdog. I have had someone, and I did manage. It's really hard to put detail. You can only put so much detail back in. I have had someone send me. What they'd done was they got their iPhone and took a crooked photo of a photo someone had on their iPhone that was out of focus. It was, and when I got it, I looked at it and my heart dropped, and I just went,
"Oh my God."
Okay, we'll work this out. But it was a birthday present.
Yeah,
I worked it out. I managed. It was a poodle, so you can sort of work out what a lot of the fur is going to end up looking like, and even get some pictures of other poodles to try and make sure you're getting the texture right, that sort of thing. And she was thrilled. She was really, really happy. So that was a good thing. But if it's in focus, it's so much easier for me, and you will get a more detailed, clear picture. Also, the higher the file is, like normally I'll send a Dropbox link, which is a link where, which is a link where the person can drop the file straight in that, and that way it doesn't get compressed. Because frequently if you send me like a message in Messenger or a picture in Messenger or something like that, it can be compressed.
Yeah.
But again, Messenger pictures, I've worked off lots of those.
Yeah.
The only thing is sometimes people will send an email, and the email says how big do you want it to be, or they've got automatic settings, and email tends to shrink it right down, which means as soon as I try and look at it in detail, it's all pixelated. And also it has to be a photo you like. Again, if you look and that represents your dog, if your dog's a big, happy, goofy dog, dog that plays with balls,
Yeah.
and you send me a. Well, that's not your dog, and you're not gonna like it. So yeah, you got to like it, and but concentrate mostly on the face. I have done ones where it's the whole animal, like legs and everything, all in the center of the portrait, but they don't tend to look as good as if it's just that little bit closer up.
How many photos could someone send you? Because I mean, you have mentioned about the best photo, but how many photos is the best number?
Probably 3 is the absolute ideal.
Yeah.
And tell me which one you like best, because I'll always try and work to the one that you like best.
Yeah.
But sometimes I might come back and say, I can't make that work in a frame, because, you know, maybe it'll be the dog's head right in the center and then a huge empty space around it. And again, it's not going to look good. Yeah. Whereas if I've got 3, I can look at it and say, I know what you liked about that, but let me show you why this one will actually work better. So make it 3 that you like, preferably. Yes. But in a variety of different positions and things. Once you start sending me like 5, 10, then I also get confused and go, oh, I don't know, this one's good, that one's good.
No,
oh,
terrible.
I can work from just one. As I say, I have just worked from one, especially if it's a gift for someone and it's a secret. Because obviously it's very hard to tell someone, hey, you know, I just really fancy 3 to 5 pictures of your dog in focus in the center of the screen. Could I just have that for no reason whatsoever? But you can say, hey, that photo you showed me the other day of your dog, can you show me that again? So, you know, I wanted to show my niece or something. You know, you can get away with that. But even I wanted to show my niece your cute dog. Can you send me 3 good photos?
Preferably front and 2 sides.
Nicely positioned, facing.
I love it.
Tricky.
Anything's possible. Let me so this is because just let me, is it going to let me do it? No, it won't let me do it around. No, there we go. Sorry, I'll do it this way. Just to make everybody's head spin as I try and figure out which is the best. So this was the portrait that that Rachael did of Winston. So this was I think I took this photo a couple of weeks before Winston passed. And even though Winston is normally a happy pug, don't get me wrong, this was just, he'd had such a really rough 12 months prior to this photo being taken. This was, for Andrew and I, this was the photo or the picture that we then wanted to be digitally painted, because it was such a representation of just how peaceful he was, because he'd had real trouble breathing and he was just so happy. And that's him sitting under, thanks, Kim. That was him sleeping underneath our outdoor setting. It was like 40 degrees outside, mind you. And he's lying on the cement. And the background of this one, so Rachael, I remember you messaging me saying, are you sure you want the chair in? And I said, no, the chair, him resting his chin is actually really important. The background wasn't. So Rachael redid the background, because I think the background was actually our retaining wall, which was a bit ugly.
Yeah, it was concrete and bricks or something like that. So I wanted to make it, I don't think I even said this to you, but I do think a lot when I'm doing these things. And I wanted to make it feel like he was laying on the, you know, earthly ground.
Yes.
I sound so philosophical now. But the colours moved up to that blue peaceful sky, and that it did represent he's lying there peacefully and moving up to that blue peaceful sky above him with the light reflecting. And this actually, not just being nice, is one of my favourites.
No, it's well, obviously definitely my favourite. The second, because I have to admit, Andrew was like, initially we both do it really hard when we lost him. When I said to him, I want to get a portrait painted, he looked at me and said, I don't think I can handle that right about now. And I just went, I really want it. And he went, fine. And then it took us a while to pick the photos. And then I said, this is the one that I really want. And even he looked at me and went, oh, okay. Like it was, I went, no, it'll be okay. And then when it finally arrived, I think we were in lockdown by the time it actually arrived, our first lockdown here in Melbourne. Andrew was still working. He still had to go into the city. He come home and I'd unwrapped it and it was still on the bench, and he come in and it actually stopped him. He stopped and he looked at it and he just went, wow, I never thought it'd look that good. Like I just, which is nothing against every positive thing about you, Rachael. I think in his mind, he had the same thing. He was like, you're basically getting someone to print a picture of Winston off and put it on the canvas. I'm like, no, it's not like that.
No, I never find that offensive. I love that reaction. I love when people stop and go, even people who know what I do stop and go, oh my God, that's better than what I thought. But
it's just absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much, Kim. And I think Joanne has realised just how great Willow's picture is going to be when I tell you what, Joe has the biggest photo album of Willow. I think Joe's biggest problem is going to be deciding on 3 photos.
We've got it now. She sent me 3 photos. And
wow, that's
chosen the one that
impressive.
worked. But hers is actually a perfect example of, she sent me 3 photos. And all 3 were great photos. And even the one that I first looked at and said, no, this is going to be the one that we're going to use, it's good. Yeah. When I then started moving it to look at it on a canvas, I came back to her and said, no, it's not going to work. We're going to go with this one instead. And it was much better.
So I'm going to show everyone the photo of Charles that Andrew and I chose just to make Rachel's life an absolute nightmare. So obviously I will pop him out and then I'll go back that way so everyone can see it. So this is obviously, and coincidentally with Pugaween only around the corner, Andrew took this photo at a photo shoot 2 years ago now. I cannot believe it's actually been that long. And I love the fact that although it looks like a puppy tear, it's actually puppy snot. But this is the photo that we've asked you to specifically paint of Charles, because it's the same thing. Charles doesn't smile. He rarely smiles, but he has this look. And Andrew managed to capture that look just perfectly at the absolute right time. The little rat bag. So this was and we've said that we want the costume and everything. So poor old Rachael, I think you're working on it at the moment, aren't you?
I am. It's the one I'm working on at the moment. Actually, I've got to say, the costume is the most fun bit. Every time I go, I'm getting really frustrated, I go, I'll do some more hat painting instead. The hat is so fun. I'll paint some hat. But no, it's because he's just got such unique ticked fur. The little colour, it's got all the ticking and colour in it, which is beautiful. But
if
you want the tear, I'm going to have to put it back in because I painted it out.
So, and I think, but conversely, I'm just loading up Rosie's picture. So, surprise, surprise, I didn't actually get a lot of choice in the Rosie picture. Had nothing to do with the fact that apparently I'm not the favourite. So it's loading up. I'm just, I know we're taking a little bit longer than usual, but this is loads of fun because, of course, everyone can now see how much I'm torturing Rachael at the moment. So this is the picture, if I remember correctly.
No, it's a sideways one.
Oh, is it a sideways?
It's a sort of long ways one. I haven't got
mine. Oh, is it the one in the pram? In the stroller?
No.
Hold on, give me a second. You're killing me now. I thought that was the one that Andrew wanted.
I don't think it was that one.
That's all right. But everyone can see the difference is Rosie does smile.
Rosie has a beautiful, soft, smooth coloured coat, a nice, perfect little
Schnoz fold.
Picture book schnoz fold, and really awesome to draw black lines.
Yes.
She's going to be a piece of cake after Winston. That's why I started with Winston. Can I just point out to people as well? That's an adorable picture of Winston, and I'm really enjoying it. But
Charles,
they did
yes.
also send me. They did also send me this really sophisticated photo of him on a black and white striped couch that looked like this beautiful Vogue picture, and I'm like, that would work brilliantly. No, we want the sailors.
All right, no, I will just because I can. I will actually put the picture up so everyone can see. Just everybody, excuse me a moment while I upload it. Because I wasn't actually prepared to be showing all these photos. Otherwise, I would have had them all ready to go. But I know exactly the one you're talking about.
I mean, probably would have killed me drawing all those stripes, but it was this really beautiful picture.
The only reason why we didn't choose it, because we did love that. That's actually a more recent one. That's Charles of only a couple of months ago. So and it was just that.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's like straight out of the Dog magazine. You know that. In his little black jumper and.
Yes. So that jumper actually has a little bow tie, but unfortunately, because Charles has got big jowls, the bow tie is tucked away.
Mind you, it also works out because, as I say, I'm trying to make the backgrounds between all four of them harmonious.
Yeah.
And I'd have had a tough time with those stripes, whereas I've given him a kind of.
At least with the same
ocean in the background.
So yeah, so as everyone can see, these are and the worst thing is I can't show anyone the photos of Lewis because Andrew and I are still searching to try and find. I've got one that I think I'm just going to have to scan and send up to Rachael as the baseline. Every other, and it was taken with an old clicky clack. Like this was 20 years ago, so it was an old clicky clack thing. So, whereas all the other photos are like of Fatdog doing silly things, like putting his head inside the carcass of a turkey on Christmas Eve, because my father thought it would be a great idea to give Fatdog turkey for Christmas Eve. And I'm like, not the entire carcass. Like,
oh my God, yeah. Mind you, all the portraits I have of my own pets, I've got one of Agatha, which I haven't got anywhere here that I could show you, but it's in my room, which is her going. And I've got one of Daphne going, and another one going.
Very sultry.
So all the ones I end up doing with mine are the really wacky, kooky ones.
Yes, we're just insane. Bloody pug parents, what are we doing? Look, thank you so much, Rachael. It's been wonderful talking to you again about this. So everyone, I did pop in, so you can find Rachael on Facebook and Instagram, as well as her website, which is fabulousbeastportraits.com.au.
Yeah.
And I will put that in the comments section so you can pop over there. So not only does Rachael do portraits, you also have a Redbubble store where you can purchase T-shirts. I think I saw stickers. I was there having a look the other day.
Stickers, masks.
Yes, because I actually went looking at the masks originally and then kind of got stuck with looking through everything else.
Mugs. They even do shower curtains. They do pretty much everything. That's also quickly the other advantage with a digital portrait is once I've given it to you, that's yours. Do what you want with it. If you want to put it on a mug or a T-shirt or a beach towel, or I can even put it on Redbubble for you. And I think I can even make it private so only you can buy it. And then you can go nutso and get yourself jerseys and T-shirts and everything you want with a portrait of your... I've got one on. Everyone can just see my enormous boobs.
So we were talking about this T-shirt at the start where Rachel, I said to Rachael that the little black slash looked very oriental.
Yeah.
So why ruin the surprise?
Yeah, it looks like I've got something, but yeah, that was in a sort of watercolor technique. that I used, because I did actually do a bird, it's not really a portrait, but commission for someone. And they wanted it in this watercolor technique. And normally I'd say you if you want my commissions, you get my style. But I wanted to learn the watercolor technique anyway. So I knew this person well. So I said, all right, but you're going to have to wait like 3 months while I learn how to do it.
Which, believe us, we're more than happy to do. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I hope you had as good a time as I did learning about Pet Portraiture from Rachael at Fabulous Beast Portraits. We'll be hanging around after the show to read and respond to everyone's messages, and they've been wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. So if you haven't already said hello, please do so in the chat box in either the Pug Parties post or in the Live in the Pug Life private Facebook group. And tonight, our winner for this week's $20 gift card is Sam Reed, who is watching via the Live in the Pug Life Facebook group. So, Sam, I'll be in contact for you to come and collect your prize. Now, if you had fun tonight and would like to share your pug life with other Pug Portraiture, then we'd love to have you on the show. And all it takes is an email or a direct message, and I'll be in contact with you. Please invite your friends and family to come and join us each week. And I'd love it if you would leave a review on our Facebook page so other Pug Portraiture can see what they're missing out on. Hello, Daphne. We thought we'd see her eventually. Hello. She was in the opening video. Finally, I want to introduce next week's guests, who were actually going to be our guests a couple of weeks ago. So I'm introducing Claire, Teddy and Doug, and they will be sharing their adventures with us next Sunday. And don't forget, these puggies are singing puggies. So I hope to see you there. So puggies, have a pawsome week, and humans, be generous with the snackies. Bye.